Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business Communication. It is a beautiful day here in Korea. I am back from my trip to Bali. Happy to be home. And we are today doing Unit 6 in our textbook, Market Leader. So we've finished Units 1 through 5, and you will be happy to know that we are now done with makeup classes. The 2 weeks of classes we missed because of coronavirus, we have now made up. So we're back to 1 unit per week starting this week. So that is good news for you and for me as well. Last week we talked about food and entertainment. I enjoyed reading your case studies, your ideas, your recommendations for where to take our group of customers for their dinner, their night out. I really liked seeing how you thought and analyzed each of the 4 customers and what they liked and disliked, and came up with a recommendation for one restaurant to go to. So thank you for your hard work. Today we are in Unit 6, which is buying and selling. And I'll go through the book today, again, pointing out important things that you need to be aware of, and also things that you can skip over, things you don't need to spend quite so much time on. So you see here, it starts on page 52, buying and selling. And we have a great quote here from J. Paul Getty: "I buy when other people are selling." He's referring here to the stock market. When people are selling, that means stocks are cheaper. People are afraid. They're just trying to get some of their money back. So they're just selling like crazy. That's happened now because of Corona. And so people who are not so worried and who are thinking to the future, they will be buying now. And that's what J. Paul Getty was referring to. When people are scared and the stock market is decreasing, stock prices are dropping, that's when he starts buying. Warren Buffett also is famous for making comments like this. But this unit is not going to be focused so much on buying and selling stocks. It's going to be about products. And so that leads me to our warm-up question here, which is, what was the last thing you bought? Where did you buy it, and what do you usually buy online? So I'll give you a moment to think about your answer to that question, and then I'll give you my own. Okay, in my case, the last, I'll talk about 2 things. The last small thing I bought was a storybook for my kids. I went to the bookstore today and picked up a book for them. They've been home for a couple of months, and so we're starting to run out of things to do, and we've read all of our books several times already. So they wanted a new book. So I went and picked up a new book. I bought it at the Kidari bookstore down the road, and it was, I think, about 11,000 won. The last big item I bought was my new computer. When we started doing classes online, I realized that my old computers, I have a couple of old ones, they just were not going to cut it. I needed something that would be faster and help me work a little bit more efficiently to make these videos and post them. So I broke down and bought a new MacBook Pro. I bought that in Daegu at Hyundai department store. I will not tell you how much it cost because I don't want to think about that. More than I would have liked, let's put it that way. But worth every penny for sure. As far as things that I usually buy online, well, actually, books are a good thing to buy online. Sometimes we buy books online. Sometimes groceries, certain foods we'll order online, like canned things, or sometimes oatmeal, things like that. My wife likes to buy clothes online. I don't, because I need to try them on before I buy them. Otherwise, things tend not to fit right. That's especially the case for shoes. So think about your answer to that question and go ahead and answer it. It's okay to talk to yourself. We're doing this from home, so talking to yourself, no one's around, no one's judging you, so don't be afraid to do that. And then when we meet in person, hopefully next month, we'll be able to do this activity as well as the others together with partners and in small groups. So for now, think about how you would answer that question. Moving down to B here, that's a listening activity. Again, you've got the listening files on Canvas, so go ahead and find 1.70 and listen, and you can fill out the answers there. See, again, think about, this is how often. We talked about these adverbs of frequency a couple of lessons ago. So how often do you buy these things? Sometimes, every day, once a week, usually. Again, remember that at the weekend is a British ism. North Americans are more likely to say on the weekend. You can use whichever you prefer. Okay. I like this question. E, is there a product you prefer not to buy online? Why? And for me, I said shoes. I never buy shoes online because I really need to try them on first to make sure they fit. I don't like returning things. It's a big hassle for me to return things online. So I try to avoid it if possible. Okay, here we've got our vocabulary, and it asks you to read the sales advertisement down here, and then find expressions which have the same meanings here. So if we look at Elise, sound and vision, this looks like an electronics store. So think about a store like Hi-Mart, for example. It says they have great deals on all home cinema, audio, and TVs. So home cinema is like home movie setups. So this book's a little bit old now, probably talking about like a DVD player and speakers, things that would turn your living room into like a movie theater. There's a 3-year guarantee, low deposit. So 3-year guarantee, they promise that your product will work for 3 years, and if it doesn't, they will replace it or give you a refund or fix it for free. It's a low deposit, so you can buy these products on credit. You don't have to pay for everything now. You can pay some now, which is the deposit. A low deposit is a small amount. For example, 100. This is again a British book, so £100 and then 12 monthly payments. Interest free, so you don't have to pay any extra for borrowing that money, and there's free delivery. So you need to match vocabulary words from this advertisement with meanings up here. So some good offers, that's the same as a great deal. The buyer pays a small amount of money at the beginning. So small. So we said when you pay at the beginning, that's a deposit, and small is similar to low. So that would be a low deposit. And you can go ahead and do the rest of those on your own. And then here you want to answer, are these sentences that a buyer would say, a person who's buying something, or are they something that a seller, person who is selling, would say? Okay, so we offer great deals. That's, of course, a seller trying to convince the customer to buy something. Okay, down here we have another listening activity. Go ahead and listen to that and answer those questions. And then for part D, again, when you buy something, a product like an electronic product or something expensive, which of these things are most important to you? So why don't you put a number next to these, like put a number 1 by the one that's the most important to you, a number 2 by the second most important, and a number 3 by the third most important. And then choose one that you really don't care about at all. It really doesn't matter to you at all. So in my case, I try not to use credit, so I would prefer a big discount first. And then, 3-year guarantee would be nice, so I can feel safe with it. Free delivery would be good too. Oh no, sorry. Let's skip that one. Great after-sale service. So if there's a problem with it, they'll take care of it and I don't have to worry about it so much. I wouldn't really care too much about the low deposit because I prefer not to borrow money. Okay, so that's my example. Okay, now we have an article here about Uniqlo, which you all are familiar with. This clothing store. There's one just up the road from my apartment here in Daegu. I know sometimes Korea is anti-Japan, and there was actually a woman holding a picket sign and standing out in front of Uniqlo a few months ago. I don't know how things are going with that now. I haven't been in the store for a long time. Nothing in Uniqlo fits me, so I have no reason to shop there myself. Sometimes we'll buy clothes for our children there, though. Okay, so you're going to read about this. You're going to read a little bit about the history of Uniqlo. And why don't we actually read this together, and I can explain some vocabulary as we go through, and then you can do the activities that follow on your own. So I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. Tadashoy Yani, the founder of Uniqlo, is Japan's richest man. That's not bad for someone who started with a single store, so one store, in Hiroshima in 1984, and now has a global retail business. The company sells high-quality casual clothes at low prices. Uniqlo grew quickly in Japan during the 1990s. In 1998, it had over 300 stores. Following the good results in Japan, Yani decided on global expansion. It started with stores in the UK in 2001. It didn't work. Most of the stores were too small and in suburbs of cities. In 2003, Uniqlo closed most of them. In 2005, Yani changed strategy. So the UK strategy of putting small stores not in big cities, but outside of big cities, that didn't work. So he's going to change strategy. The new strategy was to open large stores in major cities, big cities around the world. The relaunch, so that's when you start again. The relaunch of Uniqlo began in November 2006 with the opening of a flagship store. Flagship is like the biggest, most important store in New York. Over the next 2 years, the number of international stores went up from 54 to 92, including flagship stores in London and Paris. Okay, so this new strategy seems to be working. Yani also hired the German designer Jill Sander in April 2009. Her role was to design a collection for Uniqlo and to be the creative consultant for the company. The collection went on sale in selected stores in March 2010. In 2010, Uniqlo made profits of 49.8 billion yen. Not sure exactly how much that is. I don't have my calculator handy, but that sounds like a lot of money. Yanni sees Asia as a key market for Uniqlo. In 2007, the company had 26 stores across Asia. The number increased to 64 at the end of 2010, including a flagship store in Shanghai. Yanni's plan is for another 500 stores over the next 5 years, mainly in China. Yanni also aims to introduce Uniqlo stores in the fast-growing Indian and Brazilian markets. So that's nice. You get to see some of those country, nationality adjectives in use in that last sentence. We talked about those in Unit 1. Words like Belgian, French, etc. We talked about them again in the last lecture with food, Indian food. And here we see them in the sentence, Indian and Brazilian markets. So I think the vocabulary overall in that article is not too hard for you. I talked about a couple of the little things that might have been trouble. So I think you'll be okay there. So again, a flagship store is the biggest store of its kind in a place. So the flagship store in London, in all of England, that's like the main store. And same with the Paris flagship store. Okay, so you can go ahead and do D and E, and those are both, you need to refer to the article for those. F is your own idea. What makes a business successful? Think about all the most successful businesses you know of. What points do you think are the most important for making a business successful? Okay. Now we have a little bit of grammar for you using the past simple. And here, this should be review for you all. You know how to use the past simple. You should know how to make it already. Just a note here. So completed actions in the past. So it happened in the past and it's finished. It's not still happening. It didn't happen for a period of time. It happened once and finished, and that's it. And usually we just add D or ED for regular verbs. So save, saved, launch, launched, export, exported. But there are quite a few irregular verbs where we make the past simple in a different way. And those, there's no special thing to remember for those. You just have to learn them and memorize them. So things like cost, cost, be, was, were, grow, grew, spend, spent, give, gave, go, went, read, read is another one of these. And go ahead if you would like to and look at page 157 in the back, and you'll see the most common irregular verbs. Again, you just need to remember those. And the more you read them and use them, the better you will be with them, and you won't even have to think about them anymore. Right? So when I'm speaking, I don't even think about, oh, was that a regular one or irregular? It just comes out naturally because I'm a native speaker. And for you, if you read and talk enough, the same will start to happen to you, and you'll stop thinking about what the past tense is. It'll come out more naturally. Okay, so A, here we have a little bit of pronunciation. You'll see how ED can sound. It sounds a little bit different in different cases. So in saved, delivered, it sounds like a d sound. But with this ED here, launched, worked, comes out as a T. And then here, decided is an id sound, decided. So that's one thing to note. Don't say launched, worked, worked, launched. Okay. And you've got, you're going to just use the past simple of the verbs here to fill out this sales trip. Nothing tricky here. These should all be past simple. So you don't have to think about if it's a different type of past tense. It's all past simple. The only thing you need to do is make sure you use the right form. Make sure you use the correct ending to make it past simple. All right, we've got another vocabulary section here, and this is related to choosing a service. Here we have Dart Car Hire. It's very British sounding. In the US, we would call this car rental. In North America, you rent a car. In the UK, you hire a car. So don't let that confuse you. When we do this activity in class, you can feel free to use either hire or rent when you talk about it. So you've got some important words here like discount. Everyone knows discount. In Korea, we usually call it a DC or 할인, discount. Free, 무료 or 공짜, free. A period, that's 기간, time, amount of time. Price, of course, is 가격, and save has already been done for you. So this is a verb here, to save money. Okay, so go ahead and you can do this activity on your own after reading this and filling out the missing words. Decide whether these are true or false. And then for any false statements, rewrite them to make them true. So number 1 is a great example here. There is an extra cost for insurance. And in fact, no, insurance is free. So how would you make that false sentence true? You would just simply say there's no extra cost for insurance. Or you could say insurance is free. Either of those answers would be appropriate. Then discussion, you can't do this. We will do this when we meet in person. So for now, just make some notes and think about what you would say, how you would answer these questions. So if you were a manager and you had some new salespeople come and start working for you, what advice would you give them to help them do their jobs well? What mistakes do you think salespeople often make? Imagine when you go into a store and there's a salesperson, what kind of thing do you really not like? I had a good example of this at Highmart last year. We were looking at TVs and we went in and the salesman saw me and he was all excited to speak English. And he came in and just started talking to me and kept talking and he talked, let's say, too much, and he was really annoying actually. And so I wanted to buy the TV, but I actually just didn't buy it, and I just left because the salesman was so annoying. I went to another store where the guy didn't talk so much and bought it there. So that's just one example of a mistake that salespeople sometimes make. Okay. So then you go ahead and bring up the listening files on Canvas here, 1.76 and 7 and 8. And listen and fill in the answers there. And this, I like this question here. In pairs, tell each other about the best thing you have bought. The best thing you have ever bought. The best thing you spent money on. Think about how you would answer that question. And why. Why was this thing the best thing you've ever bought? What was the best thing I have ever bought? Well, in my case, this was maybe back in 2008 or 2009. For my mom and my brother's birthday, I was younger and single, and so I didn't have many expenses, and I was able to save some money. And I hadn't seen my mom and my brother in a long time, and I bought them tickets from the US to Thailand, and I was in Korea, so I flew to Thailand too, and the three of us had a nice 2-week-long vacation in Thailand and Cambodia. That's probably the best thing I've ever bought. It was a really nice time. So we have one more grammar focus here, and this is past time references. So words like ago and last week. So you can use these with simple past. So simple past we had earlier, and I'll combine it with the references, and you can make all kinds of good sentences here. And then, of course, a little reminder about prepositions, which we discussed recently, a couple of weeks ago, with time. So in a month, in August, or in a year, in 2001. So I graduated from university in 2001. On, for a date. So I moved to Korea on September 25th, 2005. And also use on for a day. The offer finished on Monday. We have class. We have business communication class on Monday. And then you can also do from and to. So when you're talking about a gigan, a period, from this time to this time. It began at this time and ended at this time. And again, you'll still use the simple past. They worked on the sales campaign from February to March. And you can use that for months or years or days too. So my example, I lived in Benin, West Africa from 2001 to 2003. So in my case, I lived in Benin for 2 years. This is a common mistake here. Don't say during. Don't use during in this sentence. Many students want to say he lived in France during 5 years. No. For 5 years. You're talking about the period of time, total period of time. If you want to use during, you have to use that for a point during a period. So during October, sometime in October, we reached our sales target for the year. Okay, so please pay close attention to the difference there. Okay. All right, and here's a little preposition practice with this profile of Christian Sanchez. You got to choose which preposition, so you can just refer back to the explanation and examples here to figure out which one you need to finish the profile. And then here we're going to go to 1.79 in the files on Canvas and read about Mikael Olsen, who's, I don't know if he still is, but at this time was the CEO of IKEA, or in Korean, IKEA. And you'll listen to the interview with him and fill out the missing information here. Should be interesting. I don't know. Have you been to IKEA before? It's one of my favorite stores. It's always fun to go look around there. I usually don't buy much, but it is fun to look around. I have not been to IKEA in, where is it? Gwangyang? Yeah, I have not been to IKEA in Korea yet. I hear it's always busy, so try to stay away. Okay, you've got down here, this is pair work, so you can kind of skip over that. Do this listening. So skills describing a product, listen and fill out the missing words. Same thing here. Tick the expressions you hear from the useful. So for this one, you're going to pull up 1.80 in the file, listening file on Canvas. And as you listen, look over the useful language box here, this green box down below, And if you hear an expression, just tick it, put a little dot or check mark next to it, so you can see how they use these useful expressions in real life. Okay, and then the role play here we will do when we have class. All right, we are not going to do the case study in this one here. I'd rather give you an online discussion to do for this week. We might do this one when we meet in class, but for now we're going to skip this case study. So what should you do for your online discussion? Well, let us go back to what was it? Where did it go? This one here, sorry. On page 57, part E, the best thing you have bought. So I'm gonna put two questions on Canvas for our online discussion for this unit, since we are not going to do the case study. So for the first one, write about the best thing you have bought and be sure to answer all the major questions. So what was it? When did you buy it? Where did you buy it? Why did you buy it? Why was it the best thing that you ever bought? How much was it? Answer all of those WH questions to tell us about this thing. If you have a picture of it, even better. Attach the picture to your discussion in Canvas so that we can see it. If you don't have a picture, that's okay, you don't have to, but if you do, absolutely post it there. So that's the first question that you're going to do. And the second thing you're going to do is describe your career and studies. For this one, so this is page 58, part D. Describe your career/studies. Describe your career/studies. So for this one, you're going to use a combination of this profile of Christian Sanchez talking about his education and internship and his career. And you can also use this one too, Michael Olson, and his education and career. So remember, for all of our previous discussions, you were not writing as a 20-something-year-old university student. You were imagining yourself at the age of 40, right? So when you write this answer, imagine that you are 40. You are in your job. You've already told us about your job. You've told us where you work, and you've told us about your title, what exactly you do at your work, and you told us about your family. Okay, so now you're gonna just give a little timeline about, so starting with, I graduated from Gimcheon University in whatever date you imagine you will graduate. That's 2020, 2021. And then, so after that, what did you do next? Okay, maybe you got an internship and you did that. How long? Maybe I had an internship for example, 3 months. And then I got hired and I worked as blah, blah job from say 2022 to 2027, and give us a little history of your education and career from when you graduate, up until your current age of 40 years old. I imagine you have not been doing the same job for 20 years or 15 years. You probably had different jobs. Maybe you also went back to graduate school. Maybe you did it part-time while you were working, got an MBA, for example. So think about your progress, how things went from the age of, say, 25 all the way up to 40. And you're gonna, for that, you'll be using, guess what? Simple past tense. You'll be using prepositions. You're gonna put those together to do this. So again, you can use these two as sort of examples, and I'll actually do one of my own, a real one, to tell you about my past too. And you can use that. You'll also be using this here, these prepositions. And of course, you can go back and review the simple past here. You'll be using that. So that'll give you a chance to put together everything that we learned in this unit to answer the question. So again, two things here for the online discussion. Number one is the best thing you ever bought, which is here on page 57, part D, and then your profile about your career up until the age of 40. Okay, and that will be due on, so you should watch this lecture and comment on it, of course, by Monday. So that's April 20th. And please post your online discussion by Friday, which will be April 24th. Both answers, so 1 and 2, post them to Canvas before April 24th. As always, if you have any questions about anything, send me a message on Kakao, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I think that covers it. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to reading about your career progression as well as the best thing you ever bought in your online discussion. So until next time, see you later.